doing this for 25 years.
You got to give us a story.
Well, I was an assistant in New York and I worked in fashion studios. Didn't have a lot of respect for wedding photographers in general at that time. You're reading situations constantly. Are there any sort of dicey family situations?
What would be the worst situation you've been thrown into?
Oh boy.
What would be kind of 2 or 3 bits of advice you would give me?
The trick for shooting weddings, this might sound so cliche and corny, but you really do just have to.
Welcome to the Mood Podcast, uncovering the art of conversation one frame at a time. I'm your host, Matt Jacob, and thank you for joining me in today's conversation. In this episode, I'm joined by Gigi de Manio, a photographer celebrated for her unparalleled ability to capture the essence of weddings and family moments. From her beginnings as a psychology major, discovering photography in a darkroom, to becoming a master of the decisive moment, Gigi has honed a career that fuses artistry with human connection. She approaches each wedding with fresh eyes, treating it as a unique story, and brings a thoughtful, almost poetic attention to detail that elevates her work beyond mere documentation. We discuss her unexpected entry into photography and the transformative power of capturing moments that tell stories. Gigi shares insights on finding beauty in chaos, navigating the challenges of wedding photography, and how her background in psychology informs her empathetic approach. We also explore deeper themes like the art of quiet observation, balancing creativity with client expectations, and the philosophies that guide her process. So now I bring you Gigi de Manio. Well, thank you so much for being patient, but joining me today.
Your work is stunning. Oh my God. I just got lost in your images. I am so blown away by your work, truly.
Oh,
And,
thank you so much.
I don't know if I should start now, but I just wanted to say that, yeah, I'm a wedding photographer, but your work is so moving, and I find myself getting lost in your images and wanting to take what I see in your work and your inspiration and the emotion you capture. And it's like, God, can I just do that in my work? I'm shooting an entirely different subject, but what you capture is what I want to bring to my work. I just find it beautiful. It's really beautiful.
Very sweet. Thank you. And arguably you do. We all do things in different ways, and I have questions about that because I have so much respect for you and your incredible work. So we could spend an hour just giving each other platitudes and then everyone would be happy. You're amazing. No, you're amazing.
Yeah.
No, thank you very much. It's really nice. That's the pleasure of podcasting. We get to learn from each other. And for me, on a selfish aspect, I get to, learn from loads of people and infuse and be inspired in many different ways in my own work with the work of all you guys out there. So I do wish the photography community was a little bit closer in that respect. I think with the rise of social media, it gets a little bit competitive a lot of the time, or a little bit envious of, he's got more followers than me kind of thing, or he's got more work than me, right? But yeah.
There is that. That's always a really hard part. And there are times when I just have to step back from it and just take a break, because you can so get carried away with it and just, the FOMO, or just like the envy of like, why couldn't I get that wedding? Or, I worked with that planner. How come I'm not getting that one? And yeah, you can drive yourself crazy, and it can be a total self-esteem meltdown, or, it's just like you have to manage that. It's hard.
Yeah, it's an energy that you have to try and harness in a positive way, right? There's something going. So I totally know what you mean, and I stay off social media as much as possible because of that.
Yeah.
I actually found a new artist on Instagram about a week ago, and I was just blown away. I just got lost for hours in his work, and the immediate reaction was, "Fuck!" Like why can't I do this? Right? Why? How? First, that was the first reaction. Then the second one was, well, how does he do it so I can copy it? Both of which are almost negative emotional reactions, but once I kind of realized that, okay, that's not going to help me in any respect, and just be pleased that there are so many incredible artists out there bringing beauty to the world, right? It's a difficult thing to I guess respect, but
Okay, well, you just stated exactly my reaction to your work this morning. I was doing that, saying that to my husband. I was like, "Fuck, you should just see his work. It's gorgeous." And I was like, "Do you see how he's using the light?" And oh my gosh, they're just so moving, and such a calmness to your work and a peace that I mean, just a picture of hands or the portrait, or I don't know, everything you do. I'm like, I feel like in my work, in the wedding work, it moves so quickly. I wish I could just like bring it down a notch and just like take a little more time to capture. I mean, I have no idea how you work. I don't know how much time you take to do an image like that. So,
Yeah, too long. But it's clear. I
how
mean,
do
I've
you
read a
do it?
lot
I'd like
about
to
you.
know.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a work in progress. I'm trying really, really hard to work on my storytelling technique, which is I think the for me and my niche, because I don't do much commercial work, so I'm very privileged in the fact that I can do what I want most of the time with with the images and with
Hmm.
photography. That may change in the future, but I hope it doesn't. So I get the luxury of having that time and chilling out, but I really now am trying to challenge myself this year and being better at focusing on one or two big stories that mean a lot to me, and then figuring out how to tell that story through just images, right? So yeah, I think yeah, and look, this isn't about me. This is about you.
No, but it's a great
Let's
exchange. 'Cause I
it's
appreciate it.
awkward.
Okay.
No, yeah, I used to rely a lot on, not rely, but I used to use artificial light a lot. I'd go, I found there was a unique opportunity to take a light in a softbox away on location to weird and wonderful destinations, which logistically was always really difficult and expensive, lugging a load of gear around, but I felt added some kind of originality element to my work. And then I've started using it less and less, and my focus when I'm shooting people is way more on, and this is what I want to ask you a lot about, is way more on the connection with the people. Because the technical side of things, I've spent years getting to a point where I'm happy with the kind of the aesthetic and just
Hmm.
lighting. I love lighting. I love everything about it, and I want the lighting to enhance the story and the visuals as much as possible. But the lighting is almost futile if you don't, especially in portraits, if I don't have someone in front of me that A wants to be there, that connects with me, that is willing to kind of help tell this story with me. So I think that's where I've fallen down a lot historically, because I was focused way more on like it looking beautiful. So now, yeah, I can do that a little bit quicker now because I know myself and I know my process a bit more. But yeah, now it's more the real challenge of creating art out of it, like meaningful, impactful art. So um
Well, you do. You're right. I mean, it is trying to create that connection is the key for what I do. And I do wish I had more time to slow down, but the nature of what I'm doing, it's a wedding day. It's somebody's story. It's not a photo shoot. And I have to keep that in mind as I'm working. And so how do you create this connection? How do you capture these moments where I hate to use this authentic word, but yes, it's true. How does it feel genuinely true? And it's really about you have to sort of vet your client ahead of time. Like you have to figure out, who are they? What makes them tick? What do they love about each other? Who are the important people in their lives? When all is said and done, what pictures are important to you? What pictures of who do you want to have a picture taken with? That if, you didn't get that picture, you'd be so bumming. So I need to know all of that ahead of time. And, I like to know little things. How did they meet? Um, are there any special details that have been woven into the wedding that are personal to them? I mean, even if it's something that they have at their place setting, it's a little detail, or I don't know. It's like, somebody else may just pass by it, but they put a lot of thought into that. So, I'm always looking for these little clues as to what is going to be important to them because I am telling a story. So everything I'm looking at has a reason for being there. The people they chose, the details they chose, the colors they chose, the place. So there's a reason everything is happening. And they didn't just throw it together. They're spending an awful lot of money. So, there's a reason why all these is very intentional. And so, and I'm not only photographing images for the couple, I'm also working with florists and planners and even the person who made the invitation who put a lot of thought and time into it. So everybody says, comes up to me, did you get a picture of? And I'm like, yeah, I've got it. But as I'm shooting, I'm having to constantly think that literally everything I'm passing by, someone touched, someone put their hands on it, the lighting, the flowers, the dress, the shoes, I mean, everything. And so at the end of it all, I'm sort of the gatekeeper of, the record of this historical day. And people always come, can I have images of that? So in the end, we all have our memories, but the photos are the only thing left to document it all. And so I am photographing different things for different reasons. Some of it is just to um, keep a record of what happened. Some of it is I really want to tell the emotional story and record everybody who's there. I've taken many times. I've taken the last photo of somebody in the family, and it's a weighty thing. You feel it, and it's an important day, and a lot of um, everybody comes from all around to be there to support you, and so it's like I'm telling somebody's personal story, their history, and I feel that pressure when I'm shooting the whole story. So I'm realizing, like, everything I'm looking at, I'm feeling, I need to record it. So anyway, I'm rambling, but
No, I have so many questions from that. How do you, what is, you take one, I mean, first of all, how many weddings do you do roughly a year?
um roughly I'd say average about 15 to 18, so not a ton. But a lot of them are multiple days, there'll be travel involved. So it is a big commitment, and I'll have multiple photographers, so there's a lot of images to get through when we're all finished.
So yeah, how on a normal wedding event, obviously they're all different, but if your process is understanding that this takes time, and how much work do you put into the pre-production in terms of getting to know them? Because obviously, like a week before the wedding or a month before the wedding, they're already starting to think about it, maybe get nervous,
Yeah.
maybe not really give photography much attention if you're doing it ahead of time, and I'll just do it on the day kind of thing. Or or am I way off the mark there? Is that kind of realistic? How much time do you give to them beforehand?
Well, it's different for everybody. So I'd say the higher profile weddings, I don't have as much personal time with them one on one. A lot of times, if it's a celebrity client, for instance, I am very much kept at a distance because they're not to be bothered, and everything goes through the event planner. So I'm sort of hounding the planner, but you also don't want to be a pain in the ass either. They're busy, and they look at me like, look, you're professional, you know what you're doing, do your job. But and sometimes, I'll say, "Okay, I get that. But in order to do my job really well, I need to know a little bit about them. How did they meet?" So I do usually at least get to meet them initially, establish a connection, make sure, they like me. I mean, it's not just the work because I'm going to be with them for a couple days. So do they like my work? But on top of that, can they handle hanging around me for a few days? So there is that too. Um, so, we get to know each other through that initial meeting. And then I'm just pretty upfront. I'll say, listen, you guys, I want to shoot everything that's important to you. And I am not being nosy, but please, tell me anything that you're comfortable sharing. Is there anything I need to be aware of? Like, are there any sort of dicey family situations or like, and they'll be like, oh, yeah. Okay, let me tell you. So that we don't have to somehow.
Wait, no, come on, you've got to give us a story. You've got to give us an example.
Well, just like,
Okay, what would be what would be the worst situation you've been thrown into as a wedding photographer?
well, they're just like dicey situations where you might have like very not very happy divorced parents that now have new partners, and then everybody's coming together and we're doing the family picture. So how do we get the dad without the new wife, in the shot, and keep everybody happy. It's tricky. So sometimes we put the new wife on the end and we crop her out later. So it's just like you have to figure it.
Brilliant.
But you gotta have her in there because he wants that picture. So you're working with a lot. And sometimes I don't even know these. Sometimes I don't get these details in the day of, but I get the look. And I'm like, oh, okay. You're reading situations constantly and picking up on people's energies and trying to figure out, okay, something's a little tense here. I need to figure out what to do. And so you have to be bold, but you just have to read the room. You have to know when to insert yourself and when to step out. So, yeah, it's a tricky situation sometimes. And it's not just the couple and the mother, the bride and the parents. Sometimes, the planners are, in a really stressful situation and they might get uptight and you just have to it's just like you just got to roll with it. So it's a lot of managing personalities and realize, and don't take it personally. Just sort of read the room and figure out what's going on.
And that's such a skill to really imbue in the experience of being a wedding photographer. It's not everyone has that, right? You might be able to learn it with experience, but you did your because you have a degree in psychology, if I'm correct. How much did that play in having education around the mind and people and how different people work?
It definitely helped for sure. It opened my mind up to all of that. But also, I've been doing this for 25 years, just living life too. I mean, we're constantly learning how to work with people. And I have 3 kids. I mean, that was quite the education. So, you know, and I'm married. So, like we're getting a lot of,
Also in education, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, life in general, if you're open to it, the thing is, the trick for shooting weddings, this might sound so cliche and corny, but you really do just have to arrive with an open heart. You just have to look at the scene and observe the different people and what they might be feeling and take it in. And, it bugs me. People are always ask, "Oh, have you ever shot an unattractive bride?" It's like people are just sort of want the dirt. And the thing is, like, no, not I don't no, I don't see it that way. I go in with the attitude that everybody's beautiful. And until they prove me otherwise, I'm gonna believe that they are beautiful. And I feel like especially on their wedding day, you are looking for the good. You're looking for the hope. And a wedding day is all about hope. Everyone there is, well, hopefully, they're all there to support you and hope that this union works out?
So next question, have you ever shot an unattractive bride? I'm Um, no, when you talked a little bit about there about looking for certain stuff. Give me a high level overview about if you're going in with an open mind, you don't want to be scattered all over the place, right? Obviously, you might have a team with you and maybe some assistants, I guess. But what are you as the photographer? Where are those? And we talked a little bit about this before we kind of got into things, but where are those moments of stillness that you can really kind of focus on? Okay, what am I looking for here that's going to be really special, really intimate, and really kind of be meaningful and powerful, rather than obviously you're going to get the normal family shots and the kind of the status quo of what you expect, or what the bride and groom probably expect they want, but if I look at your work, you really do spend a lot of effort and time capturing those really imitable moments in between kind of the staged moments you have at a wedding, right? Is that
Yeah,
really a conscious effort to go and do that, which separates you from others, maybe?
it is. And so there are so many things going through my brain as I'm photographing a wedding, and it is a conscious effort. All right, well, I'm sorry, I'm gonna back up. So before I do a wedding, I like to get there beforehand. I like to scout the space. I like to sit there and just be in it and feel it and visualize how everything is going to happen. where the bride and groom are getting ready, where they're gonna go from there. I like to have a whole plan. It's like being an athlete, you sort of visualize your routine or what you're doing, and you picture yourself doing it so that you can go down that route and do all the images you have in your head. Most likely, they're not always gonna happen that way, so you come up with a plan A, B, and C. Okay, well, if they move this way, what are we gonna do? If I go that way, and you just mentally get ready so that you have your big picture, you have your bullet points. Okay, well, I'm gonna go from here to here to here to here. Okay, so you have those moments that you think, okay, these are gonna be important shots. Say for getting ready, the mom comes in, the dad comes in for the reveal, seeing the bride in her dress, and then you followed by her putting her walking out for the first look and seeing the groom. So that's another. But what about the moment when um she sees him? He hasn't turned around yet. It's like there are all these in between moments that are going to happen, and they may be winners, they may not, but you have to be ready for it. And my heart is still pounding every time I shoot these weddings. It's like I've been doing this for so long. And I think it is stressful. And I think that's part of why you're really alert. Like antennae are up and you're looking for everything that could possibly happen and the interactions that are going to occur in these moments of connection. So the moments of quiet, for instance, are like when the bride, a lot of times now they give each other gifts, wedding gifts, or a letter. And so that's a nice moment. Sometimes, it's really joyful. Sometimes it's teary. Sometimes it's emotional. You don't know what you're going to get. But I do have to kind of set the scene a little bit and get a nice spot for the bride or groom to be reading their letter, and then you just let it happen. So you kind of set it up and then it happens. I don't want it to be so choreographed that I'm like, okay, well, look this way and like, it's gotta, it just has to be, it has to be real. So, um, there's a little bit of luck if that moment is going to feel magical. But then, say for the first dance, don't know if I'm going to get that sort of real intimate connection. I hope I do. Sometimes they're so stiff, it's just not going to happen. Can't force it. And other times they are naturally connected. I'm like, oh my God, I have so many. I don't know which one to choose. So it's a little bit of preparation and a little bit of luck to get those moments of stillness, connection, something that feels quiet, I guess, reflective. I love those
What keeps
moments.
you what keeps you coming back for more? Why do you do it? You've been doing it for so long. Where does the passion come from?
I'm a romantic. I am totally a romantic. I just love a love story. I am a total geek for that. Yeah, I love a love story. And yeah, I feel like love is the one thing it's so essential to our human existence. I feel like everybody, either longs for it, they want it. It doesn't matter who you are, what gender you are, where you're from, what culture. I mean, as humans, we all have this need to be loved or we want to love. And so it's an incredible story. Like, how do these people come together? And I feel the importance that I have to record this story because when I first started out in photography, it was really, I went down the road of commercial, and an assistant in New York, and I worked in fashion studios and with fashion photographers. And I don't know, I sort of for after about 7 years of assisting, I just thought, I'm not feeling it. Like it just wasn't feeling important to me. Like I needed this. Like who cares? And I needed to feel like I was recording something that meant something to somebody. And my twin sister was getting married, and as a gift to her, I just thought, well, I'm gonna shoot a couple rolls. And it was this aha moment, like when I printed them and I gave her a book, And she was so excited, and it was the most rewarding thing I had done up to that point. And I thought, okay, I wasn't expecting that. I mean, I always had didn't have a lot of respect for wedding photographers. I mean, in general at that time, wedding photographers were pretty low on the totem pole of respect. I mean, it was very contrived, cheesy, pretty awful stuff. I mean, it wasn't that interesting. There wasn't this drive. It wasn't photojournalistic in this drive to capture emotion. It was more staged and formal. And I just thought, it doesn't have to be like that. This is an incredible day. And it incorporates everything that I had learned up to that point. It's got portraiture, documentary, product, architecture, fashion, editorial. It is formal family pictures. It is all there. And you have to capture all of it. And you don't get a lot of chance to say, wait a minute, can I go back and do that again? It's moving so quickly. So you just have to go boom, 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 boom. And the reason for taking different pictures is different I have so many different reasons for taking a certain picture. So there are a lot of boxes I need to check off and make a lot of people happy. And the body of work in the end of it is a beautiful story and it means something. And it's not going to get tossed in the trash. It's going to be kept for generations and, shared. So it felt incredibly rewarding. And it was just like, okay, this is what I want to do. So I just started shooting weddings. I shot those rolls of film for my twin sister. She was working for Delta at the time as a flight attendant. She took her book to work and instantly I had like 5 new brides. They're like, "Oh my God,
Wow.
I wanted her to shoot my wedding. This is completely different than anything I've seen." And so it just took off from there. So I never assisted other photographers doing weddings. I just did it the way I thought it should be done and tell the story. Just do it. So it went from there.
Incredible. What a steep learning curve, I guess. During that learning curve of jumping straight into the deep end, did you have any bad experiences? Did you have any negative feedback during that learning process with weddings? Because I just think of the pressure. I mean, I couldn't do it. I'd just be up all night and sweating, and because it's so much pressure. I feel it for you, and the fact that you still feel it every wedding is kind of humbling because you've been doing it for long enough. But it's one day. It's well, hopefully one couple's wedding in their life, and
Yeah.
it's the most special recording that they can have. So, when you were starting out, did you have any, of the opposite experience where people weren't too happy?
I mean, I don't mean to sound arrogant, but not to my
No.
knowledge.
Brilliant. But it sounds like you knew photography so well anyway then, right? You'd been doing it for long enough. You'd come from an analog background. So you knew photography inside and out. It was just a matter of tailoring that for weddings, which sounds like it was perfectly natural for you.
Exactly. I started shooting weddings with Hasselblad 2 1/4. And,
Wow.
yeah, I know. So it was like
Do you still
ka-chunk.
have it?
I do. Yeah. It's in the
Oh,
closet
brilliant.
downstairs.
Do you still shoot any analog or get into the dark room?
I love no, digital all the way, and for so many reasons. But I did like the film. I mean, I do love the square format, but it was definitely I have so much more freedom with digital, and I just love it. But when I was shooting with the Hasselblad, yeah, my assistant was there. She was not a second shooter, or he would just be there to, I'd say, black and white, no color. So I would literally take the dark slide, put it in the film back, hand it over, and they would give me the other back with a color or black and white. So I would have to decide ahead of time. This feels like a black and white moment, or this feels like a color moment. So, some people,
How would you decide that?
I think so. For instance, like if I was photographing a father of the bride and her and the bride, doing the father-daughter dance, somehow to me that feels black and white. I wanna whenever I feel like I'm recording connection and emotion, that feels timeless. And something that really, I guess when I'd say when I'm really trying to express moments of love, I feel that feels black and white to me. Whereas if I'm shooting a party shot, like a dancing shot, celebration, that feels like color to me. I mean, it can be black and white too. I actually do have one of my all-time favorite shots is black and white, and it's with everyone singing around the table, and it's when, the old tradition of, when the bride and groom when everyone would like the bride and groom to kiss at the table, they would clank their glasses and you're like, "Hey, everybody, you bride and groom kiss." And they said, "Okay, we'll kiss, but we're not gonna do it that way. If you want us to kiss, your table has to come to our table and sing a song with the word love in it." So I have this fabulous image where 2 tables came to the bride and groom's couple table, and they're all singing a song with the word love in it. So there's all this energy and commotion, but I shot it in black and white, and it has this real timeless quality to it. To this day, it's one of the first weddings I ever did. It's still one of my favorite shots. So, and that's I think black and white can do that.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely a timeless aspect to black and white as well
Yeah.
as taking any kind of color distraction out of it. So you can, certainly, like you said, those deeper emotional moments that really stands out. I think a lot of people may not know how to use black and white these days. I knew I didn't know. I always used to think it was cheating if you didn't know color theory. But actually using it well, it can be extremely powerful. But it's harping back to those old days, we'd have to choose ahead of time. It's very nostalgic, and
Yeah.
it's almost, I don't know if photography would be better off if we kind of slowed it down like that more. But I think in your arena with wedding photography, you have to, the more you can get and the easier it can be, then the better, right? You don't want to be, holding people up or holding yourself up. Um, when you think about timelessness, and when you think about, the telling images that you want to get, how do you keep innovating that kind of creativity? How do you go into each wedding with a fresh mind and with the idea that, okay, well, I have to serve the client, but also I want to do something that's not necessarily a little bit different, but make sure I capture those different moments. Does that come into your process?
Yeah, it does because, you wanna keep it fresh. You wanna feel energized and motivated, and I'm constantly learning. I've never to this day feel like I've got it. I'm done. Like I know no. And that's the beauty of photography is that you're constantly learning and pushing yourself. I mean, if you're invested in it, you are pushing yourself. You want to try something new. And I think once I get comfortable with a certain way of doing things, it's like, okay, cool, I got that. And so then I take chances. And that's one of the beauties of working with digital, that it allows me to do that. I can really drag the shutter or I want to, as much as I can, pull in the, ambient light and all these beautiful colors that they have going on and combine that with, still making the couple look great. So how do I do that? And so I play around a lot. I do push myself to, see new things, see things differently. And honestly, seeing your work, Matt, I mean, it makes me think. It's like you look at other people's work that you're inspired by, and I might pick something up from, looking at some of your images and think, gosh, and I was doing that this morning. Like, what could I do? How could I incorporate some of this feeling that I get from looking at your work? How can I pull that into what I do? And, I somehow I'm thinking to myself, can I slow things down? Can I take a little bit more time and try and do something like this? So, like what I see in your work. And I don't know, sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. There's always such a tight timeline and it's frustrating. So there's only so much you can do, but at least it's in my brain, and I'm thinking about it. So you get motivated to try it.
Think being aware of that, and yeah, like you said, just knowing that you want to try each time to do something different or have a specific concept in mind, and it may not work, right? And that's the process of, like you said, learning
Yeah.
all the time and
Yep.
making mistakes. Or the biggest thing that haunts me if I don't try something, right? And I mean, with weddings, I can only imagine because time is so tight. It's so easy to get drawn into what I capture as much as possible. And often it's when you kind of take a step back. I imagine, I mean, I hear from you, but imagine if you just take a breath, take a step back, and that power of observation is worth a lot more than, just spraying and praying, I guess.
Exactly, and there are times when, it's a long day too, so you can get tired and you can start to just phone it in, and if I ever feel myself doing that, I do step away and I take literally it's like I'm shooting for sometimes for 12, 14 hours, so it's like, okay, I can afford to take a 10-minute break and look away, and I always find that when I do that and I come back, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't see that before," or even if I lean down to my camera bag for a minute and just take a breath, and then I look up, I see things differently, and I notice things I didn't see before. So it is just about reminding yourself to pause for a little bit and slow down, um, or throw on a different lens. Just try anything to start to see things a little differently, and it gets exciting again. Sometimes the energy's not there, and, if the crowd, if the couple, if what you see in front of you is not grabbing you, that's the scary thing. It's like, "Oh god, what am I gonna do? I gotta figure out something." I cannot leave the wedding without knowing that I gave it my full on best. Like, I got it like, "Okay, time to dig deep here. Find something. Put on a different lens, try a different light." I don't know, anything. Try a different perspective. So anything that can get me excited. So it is a challenge sometimes. It doesn't always come so easily, to be honest.
And so why is that part of the reason you do 15 weddings a year? I mean, that seems quite low, but I don't. I've spoken to other wedding photographers, and they.
Yeah, no. I have no interest in that.
Okay, that's all I wanted to hear. Yeah. Well, I imagine. I think I would be the same. Like, I want to give my 100% all to one wedding a month or
Yeah,
one wedding every couple of weeks, right?
yeah.
And be the best version of myself for that specific
Mhm.
wedding, rather than it feel like a job almost.
Yeah. No, I have no interest in doing, like, even 35 a year. No, thanks. Um, and, I was very intentional about that, and the way to do that is you raise your prices and you get fewer people that wanna do it. So I was like, "Okay, that works for me." Charge more, shoot less. And and the thing is that, if you're shooting 15 to 18, but they are multiple days and there's travel involved and there's a lot of post-production. It's not just that one day of the year. It's not just 15 work days. There's a whole lot attached to that work day. So it ends up, yeah, they're
It's a
very,
week each, right?
yeah, oh, at least, yeah. And even for the post-production, you can add on a bunch because I do albums too. So it's a lot. It is a lot of work. And there's prep too, managing the whole thing and talking to the event planner and figuring out the itinerary. And there's a lot of planning going on too. So yeah, flights and all of that.
yeah, I mean, I could, I mean, I can only imagine. Some people think you just turn up to the wedding and shoot, right? But it's a whole the pre-production, post-production is 90% of it, and the day itself is, it's, yeah. If I was a wannabe wedding photographer right now and talking to you, what would be kind of two or three bits of advice, over so many years of doing it, just general bits of advice that you would give me?
Oh boy. Um, Really, it just has to be something that really speaks to you. It is a hard day. It's not a something you just phone in. It really has to be something that you're thinking, yeah, I mean, I don't know. The subject matter really has to speak to you. I mean, I know a lot of people are like, "Oh my god, there's no way I would do a wedding. No thanks." And for me, I'm thinking, well, there's no way I'd really wanna be a product shooter. I mean, it has to, or an architectural shooter, even though I do some of that with my wedding work, but it's like a boom and I'm done. So, um, I don't know, and that's probably the obvious answer. Does it speak to you? Are you passionate about the subject matter? But in order to get started, um, I'm trying to think, how did I photographed my sister's wedding and then it was spread by word of mouth. But a lot of people ask me, how do you get into the luxury market of shooting weddings? And that would be more so with working with event planners. So when I first started, it was a very different business then. I mean, I started basically right when the internet was just coming out and websites. I mean, it was all very new. And now there are so many opportunities to connect to event planners who are planning these fabulous weddings. So much of it is about connecting to people and creating your network of people who can work with you to do these events. So I don't know. I mean, find people who you respect, planners, florists, start talking to people in the business whose work you like and start making connections. And that can be like, hey, I'll work with you. I'm not saying do it all for free, but a little bit of like, hey, I can do this for you if you want to. It's all about establishing relationships. So, and there are so many talented photographers out there doing weddings and other things, but how do you make yourself stand out? It's hard. It's really tough. So, I think it really comes down to forming relationships. And, I go to conferences and networking opportunities. So it's not something that I can stop doing. You're constantly building these relationships with people.
Yeah. I think what I get from those answers you just gave is you've got to be a people person, and you've got to understand really why you want to be a wedding photographer. I mean, it's easy to say I want to be a wedding photographer, but ask yourself honestly if you can honestly say, I like in your case, you love it so much because you love. And,
Exactly.
then,
Yeah,
people might have different reasons, but at least be honest with yourself about why you want to do it because otherwise you won't, A, necessarily do a good job and B, do it for that long. So,
that's right.
because it's
Absolutely.
difficult. Yeah.
It is difficult.
Well, it's great to see someone who's done it successfully for so long. I mean, what an inspiration. Outside of wedding photography, I mean, you obviously have a family and you have other interests, I'm sure. What do you do? What else do you do with photography, if anything? You talked about conferences. Do you do any teaching? You obviously print some stuff. Do you do publications in other outlets?
Well, I go to conferences. There is one that I just absolutely love. It's called Engage, and it is for the luxury wedding market. And they have multiple events throughout the year, 4 to 5. And I've done speaking engagements there. I've also been on the photography team that is there to tell the story of Engage so that they can use it for marketing. And that is actually a place where a lot of photographers, we all go and we meet up with each other, and it's a non-competitive environment. And we are all there to support each other. We have a really wonderful community where we come together and we talk shop and we talk about what motivates us and what cameras are you using now and what new equipment. And, we all compete against each other at the same time. But in this place, no one cares about that. We're friends and we support each other. And I come back to my studio and I'm in my space and it's just me. Um, but my community, I have a wide net of planners, florists, all these creative people that are involved in the wedding industry. And we're all spread throughout the country and the world. And we all motivate each other. We're a great support system for each other. So we come together at these conferences, and that's fantastic. It's wonderful. So I feel really lucky to be a part of that. And then other outlets. I mean, I put together a book this past September. I just launched a 25-year retrospective of all of my favorite wedding images, and it's a book called Silver to commemorate you give each other something silver on your 25th anniversary. So it's called Silver Moments into Memories. And that was a really fun project.
Available on Amazon now.
Yes, exactly. Available on Amazon. So, yeah, I got my little plug in there. Thank you, Matt. So yeah, so that was a great project to do and a nice time to reflect. and look back at all the work that I've done it to this point. And when I was younger, I really loved Life magazine, and Life magazine was just about photos. It was really I just remember looking at them and getting lost in the images, and that's the power of photography. It's just you can look at it once and then go back and look at it again and feel something different or notice something different, and it just makes you stop and look and reflect. And it was a great experience to go back and relive all of these weddings that I've done over 25 years. And why I chose different images, there are different reasons for choosing all of them. They spoke to me and for one reason or another, and that's why they're included. So it truly is just a picture book. It's just an opportunity to get lost in these images and feel something. And that's what I think is the most important. And that is my biggest goal when I photograph something. When I take an image, is I just want the viewer to feel something, whether a moment of connection or reflection or love or joy. Um, it's a powerful thing to be able to do that.
How do you do that with weddings when it's so personal to the bride and groom? Do you find it's even more difficult to make external audience members, such as me, if I'm looking at your photos of some people I don't know, right? How does that come into your brain?
No, I either think, one image may speak to you and or it may not, but it might speak to somebody else. And I think it's, can you relate to it? If you see something happening in a picture, can you feel that? Can you imagine yourself feeling that too? And if you can, then cool. I did what I wanted to do. Made you feel something. Even if it stirs up something that was like, ooh, awkward, uncomfortable, whatever. It's generally not what I'm going for at a wedding, but yeah, I just, that's the beauty of art too. It's like you can't please everybody. You just can't. And so when I'm shooting, I find that a lot of times I try not to think too much. I just want to feel it. And if I'm really caught up in what I'm feeling and and I can connect to what's in front of me, then I feel like somebody else is going to too. But I don't really care. I'm not thinking about that. Um, I'm just shooting it because I'm feeling it. And usually those moments resonate for somebody else too.
Tell
Yeah.
me more about the book. What sparked it initially? Was it a feeling of a desire to leave a legacy, or just to kind of be a little bit nostalgic?
Well, I'll be really honest, it was my husband's idea, and he pushed me to do this, like, probably after I was in the business for 10 years. I'm like, "No way." Then 15, like, "Nope." And he kept saying, "Geez, you gotta do this." I'm like, who cares?" Like, no one and a little bit of, for what you just, touched on, I was like, "Well, why would I create a book of images that other people's weddings? Like, who would enjoy that?" And then it became 25 years, and he said, "I know, I got it. Why don't we call it silver?" He was always pushing me to do this, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. I can get into that idea." And, then he goes on, he's like, "Goes so when you're dead, your kids will have something to remember." Okay, you had
Nice.
me at the title, you didn't need to go that far. I mean, so he's like, "Well, you need a body of work." He's like, "When the website is down, it's gone. Like, why don't you need to have something to show your work?" And I'm like, "Okay, cool. All right, let's do it." So he was really instrumental in helping me make it happen. So that was really fun. Yeah, I'm proud of it. It's a good collection, and it's personal to me. So yes, they are other people's weddings, but when I look at the images, I see moments. I remember certain situations. For instance, the bride and groom are just about to come down the stairs or exiting the church, and you've got everybody lining up on both sides of the stairs. And they're getting ready to do the big confetti, boom, like the rose petals, and the bride and groom are going to walk through them. And I'm looking around, I'm thinking, oh my God, which idiot is going to be the one that's going to jump in the middle of the stairs with their iPhone and get the shot? Thinking they're the, and I knew it. I was like, oh, there he is. And I found the guy, and he was, getting ready to get into the stairs. I'm like, I'm all the way at the bottom of the stairs, okay? So they're gonna come down the stairs to me. And so I have to run halfway up, and the bride and groom are at the top. They're ready to descend the stairs. So I have to run halfway up, tell the guy politely, "Could you please move aside?"
Get the
And
fuck out of
I
the
get
way.
the fuck out of the way. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and then he's like looking back at me like, "What?" And I'm like, "Thank you. Please move over." And then I have to run back down backwards and, still shooting. Oh my God. It's scary. And so I got the
But you
shot.
got the shot.
I got the shot. And so, yes, that image is in the book because personally, it was a victory for me. And on top of that, it was a good one. I really liked it. So, and it shows the joy and it's the celebration. So, anyway, so yeah, there are some moments of victory for me where I actually captured what I wanted. And yeah, so yeah, you always get the aunt in the red dress standing in the middle of the aisle with the iPad. I'm like, "Really? Really?
Big
Oh my
iPad.
God."
Yeah, everyone
Un
has a camera these days, right?
Unbelievable. Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
How how do you see the future of your work, but more importantly, the future of wedding photography and even wider in photography in general when we understand that everyone's got a camera and AI is coming about and there's more saturation and competition than ever? Do you care? Is that something that you really give much attention to?
No, I don't. I mean, it is what we do, there is an art to it, and it takes a lot of practice. I mean, think how many hours we've spent taking pictures and looking through a lens and composing and framing. Like, you're the ones for on the iPhone, and I'm not saying that people on the iPhone are not talented. I mean, there are a lot of really great shooters, but as a whole, um I don't think it's gonna replace what I bring to the wedding the day of the wedding. And, I mean, I have to believe that, otherwise I might as well just quit. But, you know, I it's interesting when you think about it, like, when we take pictures, what we're recording is truly everything is, like, what we're feeling, what's coming through our eyes. It's so personal. It's like, there are 100 people looking at this scene, but what's recorded is what you decide, what I decide to frame that moment to press the shutter, what tells us to do that. And so it's so incredibly personal. And it is an interesting thing to see the body of work when we're all done. We photographed a wedding story. This was everything that I was feeling, what I was seeing. And hopefully it speaks to the bride and groom and reminds them of what they were feeling. And that's what I really want in the end is when I present my work to them, I want to remind them what they were feeling in that moment, even though it's sort of a record of what I was feeling because I shot it and it's all being coming through my lens, my eyes. Um, I don't know. That's sort of
No, that's a great way of that's a really wonderful way of explaining it. And I'm glad you touched on that because I want to do full circle now to I think one of the first photographs you ever took that of your friend. This was a foreword in your book, so I'm doing a complete disservice, I think. But that moment in the dark room when you saw the magic of this portrait that you took of your friend in college
yes.
or a family member or something, and you understood that wow, this really was a fraction of a second of a moment that can never happen again. And capturing this young lady, I don't know why I'm telling it. You tell me
You're
the
doing a
story.
great
Tell me what.
job.
Yeah,
Yes. Well, it was
there's a romance to it. So yeah, please
well,
tell me.
thank you. I'm glad you remembered, which means it spoke to you. But yes, so I was a psychology major in college and it was my senior year and they said, "Okay, you're ready to graduate, but not really because you have not finished your art requirement." And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm not artistic. I don't know what to do." And they said, "Well, here are your choices." And photography was one of them. And so I like, "Okay, I think I can do that. That sounds that sounds cool." So I picked up a camera and one of our first assignments was to take a portrait of a friend, so I photographed my friend Liz, and then we went into the dark room, and I'm, in the developer, and then it was truly magic. I saw her face appear, and it was I'll never forget it. It's that moment just hits you. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so cool." It was like magic. And I remembered the shooting taking the shot was a little bit awkward, it was difficult, it didn't flow so easily, but there was that split second where I got this moment, and it was like I fell in love with that image and I thought, "Wow, we're all ready to graduate, we're 21, we're sort of like what's gonna happen next?" And I had just captured this moment in time that will never happen again. And there was a real power to that. I thought it was I'm recording someone's history. And it was fun because I reconnected with her this past September when the book came out. And she's basically the first portrait I'd ever taken. And here she was, coming to my book launch and she was there to support me. It was pretty great. So,
Do you still have that photo?
I do. Yeah, I do.
Oh,
I have
you're
it.
gonna have to send me a copy.
Okay.
Well, if you don't mind, if
I
Liz
don't
doesn't mind,
I don't mind.
yeah, I'd love to see it.
Okay.
Yeah, what a wonderful story, and it's such a privilege, isn't it, to be part of that, especially with someone else. That's why I love portrait work and taking photos of people because it's a two-way thing, and it's their space, and you're capturing something in them, in those eyes, that will never happen again. They will never have that feeling. You'll never have that feeling. It's such a once in a lifetime moment that's yeah, it's extremely powerful.
I wanna ask you a quick question, Matt. How much time do you spend with your subjects before like, you really have there's such a serenity and a quietness and a confidence. I mean, there's such peace. I keep coming back to this word peace when I look at your work with your subjects. And how do you get them there? How do you get them to that space of comfort?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm glad you recognize that. That's kind of what I'm going for. I love minimalism. I love negative space. I love peace. It's something a deep burning desire in myself. It's just a reflection of kind of who I want to be. I want more peace in my life. I enjoy just no one around and being in the comfort of my own environment in peace and quiet. So there's something deeply personal in that. But in terms of like the process, I like to say that I spend a lot of time with them. It does vary depending on what project I'm on or if I'm maybe working for someone else or partnering with someone else. But in an ideal world, I'll spend a week with people before I get them in front of the camera.
Wow.
In reality it's a day or a couple of days. But yeah, if I was to draw out a perfect project, the first week would not be me picking up a camera. It would just be me engrossing myself in that environment with those people and allowing them to learn about me as much as me learning about them. But don't forget, a lot of photographs I don't publish that didn't work, right? That's beauty of photography. We edit all the time. We edit with selections, and there are many photographs I didn't have that connection, and I didn't put the time in to get to know them and to break the ice, and just to be learn how to be empathetic towards them and what they're going through and what their life is like, and et cetera, et cetera. A lot of the people I photograph either haven't been photographed before or have rarely been photographed. So there's that whole thing of also getting them used to the camera, what it is, and why I'm so interested in them. 90% of the time, they don't understand why I am interested in them. Right? There's not that connection to reasoning that someone in the West might be so used to, or not. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. I know in reality, a lot of the times I do feel rushed, and I wish I had more time with these people. Um, but I take my time on shoots. I really just if I can come out of a week shooting with 5 images, I'm really happy.
That's great.
And if it takes me 2 or 3 days to get that, then I'm more than happy to spend that time. I'll be frustrated, but I'm happy to spend that time getting it. Yeah.
Amazing. That's incredible.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me. before we go, I do want to hear kind of what your movements are next, where people can find you, what's any more books coming out, or how
Gold.
you see the next, yeah, gold.
Gold.
Wait, when's gold? Is that
Yeah.
50?
50. I'll be in my walker. I'll just be like, okay, click.
I
Yeah.
mean, do you see retirement as a thing, or because you
No,
love it, you just want to do it all the time?
I don't. I can't imagine retiring. I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm gonna have to at some point. I don't want to. It's funny. I mean, I'm into this, 25 years already, and I literally can't get enough. I still feel new. I do. I feel like there are still so many people that I want to work with and places I want to travel. I want to do more destination weddings. I really do. I mean, now that all my kids are out of the house, um, you know, one's in college, two are in New York or working. And so, yeah, I'm in my third act. Okay, what do I want to do now? And for me, it's I want to travel and keep shooting weddings in the most amazing, beautiful places. I love shooting landscapes too. So, my life is a little quieter now in that regard. And the fact that I'm not having to be a mom, doing pickup and drop off still. And I don't know
Yeah, yeah,
how
yeah.
I did it. I don't get it. I don't know how I did it.
Incredible. Superhuman.
I somehow did it, but I have an incredible husband who is amazing partner and all of that. We tag teamed it, so that was great. I'm lucky, but I don't know what is next. Just keep going. I don't want to quit. I literally I'm not about, if you were to say what's your, 5-year goal plan whatever, I don't know. I don't do that. I live very much in the moment. It's just what I do. I probably should have a plan, but I don't.
No, I agree with you, and I think it's quite common with creators and artists. The amount of photographers I've spoken to, and I'm the same. I don't have a 5-year plan. I have some goals, but I don't kind of structure them into something so ornate.
What are your goals, Matt?
Oh, we don't have enough time. Podcast is one of them. I want to shoot more. Definitely, it's my number one love, and life often gets in the way. I don't do too much commercial stuff, so that's a blessing and a curse. If I did more commercial stuff, it would get me out there doing more. But podcast gets in the way, other jobs gets in the way. Life admin gets in the way. They're not all excuses, but I just want to shoot more. I want to do. There's so many stories I want to tell, and practice it. I just want to be better all the time. I think that's the biggest goal, and so many creatives' goal. And you just said it as well. You feel new in it still. You want to keep learning. I know I can do better, and I want to do better. But one of my big goals actually is to do a book. I'm really envious of you, and I'm super proud of what you've been able to achieve, and it's so inspirational to any photographer who creates a book, but certainly someone who's done it over 25 years. Absolutely amazing.
Well, thank
So yeah,
you.
that's a big goal of mine. But
Well, you would
keep
have
on
an
rocking.
yeah, keep going. You would have an incredible book. I'm waiting for that one to come out. Let me know.
All right, thank you. In the meantime, I hope next time I'm in Boston, I'll give you a shout and see
Oh,
if you're
that'd
in
be
town and
great.
we can grab a coffee.
I would
Yeah.
love that. Well, Matt, thank you so much for inviting me on your podcast. This is such a pleasure to meet you and speak with you. Love your work, and I'm gonna continue following you for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. The pleasure's all mine. Thank you so much for joining me and spend your evening online.
You're
And
welcome.
yeah, keep on being in the moment. Keep on
Yes,
doing incredible work, and I'll keep a close eye on it.
you
Thank you.
too. All righty. Thank you.
Thanks, Gigi.